Hello students. So we shall continue with our topic. So the last part was the fluid mosaic model of plasma membrane. So next we will consider the functions. So functions of plasma membrane. So plasma membrane, as you know, it is the boundary of cell and it performs the functions mainly of transport. So it helps to transport substances across it, right? Means the in and out movement of substances. It takes place through plasma membrane. So plasma membrane helps the substances to move inside the cell. Even it helps the substances to move out of the cell. So inward movement and outward movement of various biomolecules or various substances, it takes place through plasma membrane. So that is the main, or you can say primary function of the plasma membrane. So it helps in transport of molecules across it. Across it means whether in or out, right? So here, imagine this as the cell and this is the cell membrane or plasma membrane. So substances, they move out of this cell or substances move inside this cell. So this is out and this is in. So in and out movement of substances, it takes place through plasma membrane. Now this transport of biomolecules or transport of substances is by different processes. So there are different processes which help in this function. So they are, one is the passive transport, then there is osmosis and there is active transport. So passive transport, osmosis, active transport. These are the various processes, right, which help in the function of plasma membrane. So next is the passive transport. So when this transport of biomolecules is considered as passive. Passive means, the meaning of passive is, automatic, right? So substances automatically move, right? The movement of substance is automatic, that is passive. And this is without requirement of energy. So energy is not required, right? So whenever there is a passive transport which is involved in the transport of any substance or biomolecule, energy is not required. So the process which does not require energy, it is called the passive transport. And here substances always move from high concentration to low concentration. So in passive transport, any biomolecule, it moves from high concentration to low concentration without requiring energy. It doesn't require energy. Right? So this type of transport is passive transport. So one type of passive transport is the third point, that is osmosis. So osmosis is commonly observed in the plant cells, right? Where water is transported, right? So water molecules, they are transported from again high concentration to low concentration with the help of osmosis. So osmosis is the movement, right? Osmosis is the movement of solvent molecules. Osmosis is the movement of solvent molecules. Here solvent is water. So movement of solvent molecules from high concentration to low concentration. So this is another function of the plasma membrane, right? So osmosis takes place through plasma membrane. And the last one, it is active transport. So when you call the transport of biomolecules as active, so it is exactly opposite of passive, right? The transport mechanism exactly opposite of passive is called active. So what does it mean now? See here, active transport takes place from low concentration to high concentration. So transport of biomolecules or transport of substances or movement of substances from low concentration to high concentration is called active transport. So such transport, it requires energy, right? So the transport mechanism that requires energy, it is active transport, where substance moves from low concentration to high concentration. So those are some functions of plasma membrane. The next we shall consider the cell wall. So cell wall, it is commonly found in plant cells, right? Cell wall is commonly found in plant cells. Even it is found in some fungi. Even it is found in some prokaryotes like bacteria. So cell wall, with respect to plant cells or fungal cells, it is the outer covering. So cell wall forms the outer covering. So what is the exact location of the cell wall? So in the previous videos we discussed the ultrastructure of a plant cell. So in that you might have seen the cell wall. So cell wall is located exterior to the plasma membrane, right? It is located exterior to the cell membrane. So it forms the outer covering, right? So how you can define a cell wall? So cell wall is non-living rigid structure, right? It is non-living and it is composed mainly of cellulose. So cell wall is a non-living structure composed of cellulose. So the main component of cell wall is cellulose, which is a carbohydrate, right? Which is a carbohydrate. It is rigid. Cell wall is rigid. Rigid means it is not flexible, right? Something which is hard, right? Something which is hard. It is called rigid. So it is non-living rigid structure found in plant cells. So you may expect a 1-mark question, what is cell wall? So you have to write cell wall is a non-living rigid structure in plant cells. Then the functions of cell wall. So cell wall performs these functions. So one function is it gives shape to the plant cell. Right? So plant cells, they have a particular shape. See, cells are of different shapes. right? Certain cells are circular or spherical, certain cells are elongated, right? So there are different shapes of plant cells. So that particular shape, it is due to cellulose. So cellulose gives particular shape to the cell. That is one function. Then another function, since cell wall lies exterior to the plasma membrane, it gives protection. So plant cells get protection from cell wall. So that is another important function. Then cell wall prevents the entry of unwanted substances into the cell. The substances which are not required by the cell, they are not taken inside, and that is done by the cell wall. So cell wall prevents the entry of undesirable biomolecules, or it prevents the entry of unwanted substances. That is another important function. Then another function is it helps in cell-to-cell interaction, right? So there is interaction between the adjacent cells, right? There is interaction between adjacent cells. So the two cells which lie close to each other, they interact with each other, and that interaction is with the help of cell wall. So cell wall, it has certain gaps. They are called plasmodesmata, right? In previous video we have discussed, right? So plasmodesmata, they are located on the cell wall, and with the help of plasmodesmata there is cell to cell interaction, right? So two cells are connected, two adjacent cells are connected by these plasmodesmata. So these are the important functions of a cell wall. So you may expect question, what is cell wall? Write the functions of cell wall. The next, the endomembrane system. Here endo indicates inside, right? Endo indicates inside. Exo indicates outside. So exo and endo, they are opposite words, right? So endo means inside, exo means outside. So here endo, it means inside the cell, something present inside the cell, or a system present inside the cell, right? Membrane. Here membrane indicates some cell organelles, right? So in the previous videos we have discussed membrane bound cell organelles, non-membrane bound cell organelles. What are the examples of membrane bound cell organelles? Means the cell organelles which have a membrane, they are called membrane bound. So the examples are the endoplasmic reticulum. It is a membrane bound cell organelle. Then there is Golgi complex or Golgi apparatus. There are lysosomes, vacuoles, mitochondria, chloroplast. They are all membrane bound cell organelles which are found inside the cell. The non-membrane bound cell organelles which don't have a membrane, which are those, one is the ribosome, right? Very common non-membrane bound cell organelle. So it is ribosome, one example. Another example is the centriole. Centriole is another example of non-membrane bound cell organelle. right? So here membrane indicates the membrane bound cell organelles. So these membrane bound cell organelles or membranous organelles, right? Membrane bound cell organelle or membranous organelle, meaning is same. So the system consisting of membranous organelles located inside the cell, it is called the endomembrane system. So endomembrane system, it is the system of membranous organelles whose functions are coordinated. Now see here, the organelles having membrane whose functions are coordinated. Coordinated means the functions are interlinked, right? There is linkage or there is linking between the functions. Right? Means all these organelles, they work together, their functions are interlinked or interconnected, right? So such membrane bound cell organelles whose functions are coordinated, they form a system, it is called endomembrane system. So the cell organelles that come under this endomembrane system, they are the endoplasmic reticulum, then there is Golgi apparatus, there are lysosomes, there are vacuoles. So all these membranous organelles whose functions are coordinated, they form a system called endomembrane system. There are some membranous organelles, right? There are some membranous organelles whose functions are not coordinated. They are mitochondria, right? So mitochondria doesn't come under endomembrane system. Even the chloroplast is also not included under endomembrane system. So these are some exceptions to this endomembrane system, right? So mitochondria, chloroplast, they are not included under endomembrane system because their functions are not coordinated with other cell organelles. So that is about the endomembrane system. So in this video, we have discussed the functions of plasma membrane. Then we discussed this meaning of cell wall and the functions of cell wall. And finally, we discussed the endomembrane system. So with this, we will conclude this video and continue in the next video. Thank you.